Heartwarming. 12 years later, little girl fulfills promise to lonely cowboy discover their INCRE. The midday sun cast a golden glow over the dusty plains of Texas, where Jake, a once celebrated rodeo star, spent his days wrestling with solitude. At 40, he stood as a testament to unwavering resilience, battling the relentless economic storm that threatened his struggling ranch. He remembered the joy of Emily, the spirited little girl who, 12 years ago, had looked up at him with wide, hopeful eyes and promised she would return. "I'll help you," she had said, her voice still echoing in his memory, a sweet melody of unwavering loyalty. And now, as he gazed across the fields, he felt the weight of the world press down on him. The ranch was on the brink, and the community seemed to turn a blind eye to his plight. Shaking his head to clear the thoughts, he recalled the laughter they had shared, how simply her presence had lit up even the darkest days. Little did he know that this promise, as fragile as it was hopeful, would soon be put to the test. Emily stepped back into town, a fierce determination stepping into her stride as the familiar sights brought back a flood of memories. College had sharpened her ambition, but it had also introduced her to a world of economic disparities and class struggles. She felt torn between the city's towering dreams and the dusty trails of the ranch where Jake still poured his heart and soul. As she walked the familiar streets, the townsfolk watched with a mix of awe and skepticism. She was the hopes of a small town, yet she carried the weight of something larger than herself. When their paths crossed again, emotions were thick enough to cut through. Jake, with his rugged exterior and quiet burdens, felt a mix of excitement and apprehension at the sight of the grown woman before him, who once admired him so fiercely. "You kept your promise," he said softly, a grin breaking across his weathered face, yet his eyes carried the stories of a man who had lost much. "I promised I'd come back, didn't I?" She replied, her voice wavering just slightly. They reminisced, sharing stories that danced between laughter and memories that sparked silent tears. Emily began to understand just how deep Jake's struggles ran. The ranch was more than land, it was family, legacy, and loss rolled into one. Before they could process the gravity of their reunion, tragedy struck like a bolt of lightning. The news that the ranch faced closure loomed heavy, from a gleaming development proposal that threatened their sanctuary. The townspeople became nervous whispers, and the winds of change appeared unforgiving. The very fabric of their community seemed to unravel at the seams, and suddenly, their shared history became laced with urgency and questions of loyalty. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As they rallied the community, a bond began to form between them, a quiet understanding born from shared dreams and fears. They found solace in the dark nights spent drawing blueprints for a plan. But as the storm gathered on the horizon, it unleashed not just rain but doubts spiraling like wind across the plains. In a moment of vulnerability, Emily confronted her own fears of inadequacy, the pressures of ambition weighing heavy on her shoulders. Jake held back tears, the fierce pride that had once driven him now a burden. As the storm pounded the earth, the air thick with tension, Emily looked into Jake's eyes, igniting the same fear that held him captive all those years. "Will we fight for this ranch, for us?" she asked, voice trembling. "With possibilities." In that fleeting moment, promises renewed and futures teetered, leaving questions hanging like the dark clouds above. Would they take the leap together, or would dreams lead them in separate directions once again? The days that followed their reunion were a whirlwind of frantic energy and sleepless nights. Emily and Jake dove headfirst into their mission. They organized community meetings in the small town hall, where dusty wooden benches creaked beneath the weight of concern and unease. The townsfolk gathered, faces etched with worry, as they listened to Jake share the fate of the ranch. His voice was steady, but at times, it cracked under the burden of unfulfilled dreams. Emily stood by his side, her heart racing, pulling strength from the very ground that had nurtured her childhood. "We can't let them tear this place apart," she urged, her eyes scanning the crowd. "This ranch isn't just a piece of land, it's part of who we are. It's our home, our history." Some nodded, while others murmured skepticism. The truth was undeniable: the development promised jobs, income, and a chance to modernize their struggling town. The allure of shiny new buildings danced before their eyes. But for Jake, the ranch represented more than mere survival. It was his identity, woven tightly with the memories of laughter, warmth, and community. As they fought against the creeping despair, Emily's resolve strengthened. She had seen what was happening in the city, the unfolding lives of those who lost touch with their roots, chasing a dream that often turns sour. "We need a plan," she said to Jake over cups of coffee late at night, their shadows flickering against the walls of the old ranch house. "We'll create a project that shows how the ranch can thrive in a way that benefits everyone. Let us bring in people who want to invest in good, not just profit." Jake leaned back, incredulous but inspired by the fire in her eyes. After all these years, here was this girl who had once held fast to the promise of helping him. "You still see the potential in this dust bowl?" he asked, his voice softening. Emily reached across the table, a spark blossoming between them that seemed to breathe hope into the quiet room. "I know we can transform it. We just have to believe it's worth fighting for." Emboldened by each other's passion, they pushed through difficulties, drawing support from old friends and introducing younger generations to the ranch's rich legacy. As they forged connections, their shared mission began to ignite something more, an unspoken bond rekindled by trust and purpose. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the community began to rally. Posters adorned the town, "Save our ranch," ringing through the streets like a battle cry. Emily roamed the town, interviewing locals, gathering stories to share the ranch's heritage. Each shared experience wove a deeper connection that melted the reserved demeanor of many. But with growing momentum came challenges. The developer's representative arrived with slick suits and practiced smiles, ready to undermine their efforts. As Emily faced him, she felt a knot tightening in her stomach. Was their dream strong enough to hold when confronted with cold hard facts and corporate ambition? "Don't forget," said Jake beside her, his presence a balm amid the storm. "This is our home, and we have something they can't take away: our story." With their community behind them, they prepared for the town hall meeting that would decide the ranch's fate. The air hung heavy with anticipation, every heartbeat echoing the gravity of what lay ahead. Would their love for the land and each other withstand the storm? As Emily took a deep breath, she turned to Jake, courage rising. The moment of truth was near, but she knew that whatever happened next, they would face it together, and amidst the uncertainty, a comforting thought crossed her mind. She wasn't just fighting for the ranch. She was fighting for their chance at something beautiful. But as the meeting loomed, one question remained burning in their hearts: would they truly find a way to save everything that mattered to them? The room buzzed with anticipation, a palpable energy mixed with anxiety. As townsfolk took their seats, Emily could feel their collective hope and fear wrap around her like a heavy blanket. Jake's hand brushed against hers as they made their way to the front, grounding her with reassurance. The town hall was transformed. Banners declaring "Protect our heritage" decorated the walls, a visual testament to the community's commitment. Emily's heart swelled, even as doubts darted in the back of her mind. What if they don't understand? She whispered to Jake, just before they stood before the crowd. Together, Jake replied firmly, a glimmer of determination in his eyes. The mayor stepped up to the podium, a seasoned man with gray hair and a brow furrowed with worry. "Thank you all for coming," he said, scanning faces filled with mixed emotions. "Tonight is crucial for our town. We have a proposal on the table that could change everything." His gaze fell on Emily and Jake, and he nodded in their direction. "But first, let us hear from those who are fighting to save the ranch." As Jake began to speak, his voice echoed like a familiar song. "This ranch is more than land, it's the beating heart of our community." He paused, letting his words settle. "It has fed our families, held our stories, and shaped who we are. We must protect it for future generations." Emily watched the crowd, the tension tightening her chest. "We can thrive," she interjected, her voice resonating with urgency. "We're not against progress, but we believe it can occur alongside our heritage. By reviving the ranch, we can create jobs that honor our roots. Sustainable farming, community events, tourism, these will help us grow, not just change." The townsfolk exchanged glances, some nodding thoughtfully while others shifted uneasily. Their eyes widened, as if they were just now considering the possibility she painted. Then the developer's representative, a slick man in a tailored suit, stood up. He smirked, his confidence radiating as he took the mic. But let us be honest, he began, his tone dripping with condescension. Your vision is lovely, but the reality is stark. How can you compete with economic development? Jobs are jobs, and they come from innovation, not looking backward. Harsh whispers followed his words, and Emily felt the weight of despair creeping back. She caught Jake's eye, searching for strength. He reached for her hand, the small gesture a lifeline against the tide of doubt. Jobs should not come at the cost of our identity, Jake countered, his voice steady despite the challenge. What we're fighting for is about our future, tied closely to our past. We need a second chance to cultivate prosperity, but not at the expense of our history. Their words hung in the air, powerful yet vulnerable. Emily sensed the townspeople wavering. The battle was far from over. She leaned closer to the edge of the stage, pouring her heart into the moment. Please, remember your connections to this land. Remember the laughter in these fields, the stories around campfires. We can turn this ranch into a beacon of hope, not just another forgotten piece of real estate. As the meeting progressed, back-and-forth dialogues erupted, some passionate, some heated. The tension thickened, moments of silence punctuated by murmurs of support and concern. Emily tightened her grip on the podium, her pulse racing, her voice unwavering. I believe in us, she exclaimed, the words bursting from her. If we stand together, if we unite behind our shared dreams, we will find a way to preserve our ranch. But as the evening wore on, a shadow fell across her conviction when the mayor finally spoke up, revealing he had already received the developer's proposal, and it would take more than passion to turn the tide. Moments later, the meeting closed with a sense of unresolved tension. We'll reconvene next week for a vote, he stated, glancing at Emily and Jake. An underlying fear gripped her heart. Would they be ready? As they filed out into the cool night, uncertainty clung to the air. It was one thing to dream, but another to face the hard truths waiting ahead. Did we do enough? Emily asked, doubt tinting her voice. Jake glanced up at the stars, a small smile creeping into view. Together, we will. But deep down, Emily couldn't shake the nagging dread. What if the vote went against them? Could they truly save everything they held dear? The thought lingered as they walked side by side, hearts heavy yet hopeful, ready for whatever would come next. In the days that followed the tense town hall meeting, a thick curtain of uncertainty hung over Emily and Jake. Each morning felt like a countdown, the approaching vote looming above them like a storm cloud. They spent hours brainstorming ways to rally more support. Emily found solace in their shared efforts, often finding herself lost in the memories of her childhood spent on the ranch, the smell of fresh hay, the sound of hooves against the dirt, and the laughter that echoed among friends. One afternoon, they gathered in the old barn, the sun pouring through dusty windows, casting golden streaks of light. Jake laid out a map of the ranch on the wooden table. We need to invite people to see what's at stake, he said, tracing one of the boundaries with his finger. If they could just walk these fields, feel the connection, host a community day? Emily suggested, her eyes lighting up. We could bring families and show them everything the ranch stands for. Interactive events, food, maybe even some horse riding. Her voice surged with excitement, envisioning the joy it could bring. As they planned, a sense of hope washed over them. They reached out to locals, gathering volunteers to help with the event. Many stepped forward, inspired by Emily and Jake's passion. Whispers rippled through town about the ranch's rich history, stories that linked everyone together. It felt like the flicker of a flame being rekindled. As the week rolled forward, Emily could hardly sleep. Each night was filled with dreams of laughter and joy, children playing under the wide, open sky. But even the thrill of planning was tinged with anxiety. What if it isn't enough? She confided to Jake late one night as they stood at the barn's entrance, gazing at the stars that once felt so comforting. What if they come, but still vote against us? They will come, Emily, Jake reassured her, his voice steady. They care. They just don't see it yet. They don't know how much they have to lose. He turned to her, the moonlight illuminating his features. And you'll show them. The day finally arrived. Families poured in, laughter mingling with the sweet sound of country music. Emily and Jake guided groups through the ranch, sharing anecdotes and stories that breathed life into the dry statistics they had shared at the town hall. Children ran alongside the horses, their laughter echoing with delight as they learned how to care for the animals. The once forbidding specter of the vote melted into the background, replaced by the vibrant energy of community. Throughout the day, Emily's heart soared as she saw the connections forming. People who hadn't spoken a word to each other were now trading stories over homemade pie and lemonade. The ranch blossomed into a living tapestry of the town's heritage, each thread binding stronger with every moment shared. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Emily gathered everyone around the bonfire. "Thank you all for being here today," she said, her voice filled with emotion. This is what we're fighting for. Our heritage, our future together." The crowd erupted into cheers, their spirits lifted. Hope swelled in Emily's chest. But as night fell and the stars twinkled above, a pang of reality hit. The vote was only days away, and she knew that the outcome could change everything. Voices of doubt whispered at the back of her mind. Would this be enough to sway the townsfolk? As she and Jake walked home under the vast, starry sky, her heart raced with both pride and fear. They had shown their community the heart of the ranch, but would it lead to the change they so desperately sought? "What if we fail?" Emily said softly, the fear breaking through her optimistic facade. Jake stopped and looked at her, determination in his eyes. "Then we fight again. Together." The door to their dreams creaked on its hinges, ready to swing either way. The final vote loomed, heavy with uncertainty, but one thing was clear: they wouldn't give up without a struggle. What would their future hold? Could they protect the heart of their community, or would it slip through their fingers? The next chapter awaited as the vote drew near. The day of the vote arrived with an air thickened by tension. Emily awoke to the soft rays of sunlight filtering through her bedroom window, but the light felt cold against her skin. She pushed herself out of bed, her fingers trembling slightly as she brushed through her hair. Today was not just a day, it was the culmination of every late-night talk, every rallying cry, every moment of hope and fear they had shared. At breakfast, the ranch felt quieter than usual. Jake was there, pouring coffee, but his eyes seemed distant. Emily could see the worries etched on his face, mirroring her own turmoil. "Ready?" he asked, his voice steady but carrying a weight of uncertainty. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, forcing a smile even as her heart raced. She could feel the weight of eyes upon them, the town looming over them like an unyielding mountain. They drove to the community center, where a palpable buzz filled the air. The townsfolk gathered, animated chatter surrounding them as everyone took their seats. The wooden chairs creaked under the weight of anxious bodies. Emily's pulse quickened, each heartbeat echoing like a countdown to an uncertain future. "Today is about our ranch," Emily thought, gripping the edge of the table. "It's about preserving something that binds us all." Her thoughts flickered to the laughter of children at the community day, to the way new friends had formed connections over pie and horse rides. If only all those faces would remember that feeling today. When the mayor finally stepped up to the podium, the room quieted down. Emily held her breath, her hand instinctively seeking Jake's. His fingers intertwined with hers, a tether to calmness amidst the storm brewing inside her. "Today we are voting on the future of the old Cedar Creek Ranch," the mayor announced, his voice resonating with authority. "A project that could reshape our town for years to come." Emily listened intently, each word shaping the fears she had bottled up since those very first whispers about development plans. In that moment, she could see not just her ranch but all the memories it held: the warmth of family gatherings, the joy of laughter, the passing down of values that rooted their community together. "Let us make our voices heard," Jake whispered, sensing her rising anxiety. It felt like a collective inhale, each person in the room sensing the gravity of the moment. One by one, the townsfolk stood to voice their opinions. Emily's heart sank as a few expressed support for the new plans. But just as she feared the tide had turned, others began to speak up for the ranch, sharing their own stories. They remembered the smell of hay, the thrill of learning to ride, and the connections made over years. Hope bloomed with each testimony. The atmosphere shifted as the hall filled with the echoes of shared memories, people standing up, their voices steady and passionate for the land that meant so much to them. As the last speaker concluded, the mayor returned to the podium, looking over the crowd. "Now we will vote." Time slowed as they filed one by one to cast their ballots. Emily's heart thudded ominously against her ribs with each tick of the clock on the wall. She focused on Jake's hand holding hers tightly, a calming force amidst the chaos. When every last vote was counted, the mayor took a deep breath before announcing the result. The majority has voted to preserve Cedar Creek Ranch. A wave of emotion crashed over Emily. She turned to Jake, tears brimming in her eyes. They had done it. They had fought for their dreams, and against all odds, they hadn't just saved the ranch, they had reignited the very spirit of community. In the middle of their celebration, as laughter erupted and hugs were exchanged, Emily felt the air shift again. There was something in the way the crowd buzzed, a revelation yet to come. "Emily, we need to talk," Jake said, pulling her aside, his expression serious. "What is it?" she asked, feeling the excitement of the moment fade into a flickering uncertainty once again. "There's something I've been meaning to share with you. Something from the town council meeting that caught my attention," Jake began, the weight of his words sinking in. What truth would unravel now, just when they thought everything was finally perfect? Jake took a deep breath, and the moment stretched out, heavy with anticipation. Emily could see the turmoil behind his eyes, the kind of turmoil that spoke of secrets that could shake the foundations they had just built together. "What is it, Jake?" She felt a knot form in her stomach. "Did something go wrong?" "Not exactly," he replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. "But during the meeting, there was a mention of something that could put the ranch in jeopardy again, a potential new investor who wants to expand." Emily felt her heart drop. She had barely absorbed the joy of saving the ranch before a new threat loomed over them. "What do you mean? Who?" "I don't have all the details, but they said the investor is very interested in the land surrounding Cedar Creek. They might want to develop a resort or something." Jake's face was steely, but she could see the fear rippling just beneath the surface. "Do they have any support?" Emily's voice trembled. "We just fought so hard for this. How could anyone want to tear it down again?" "I don't know, but I do know one thing," he said, gripping her hands tighter. "We need to prepare. If this person has the backing of influential people in town, they could sway opinions again." A wave of anger washed over Emily. Just when they had won the battle, it felt like a dark cloud had settled over their hard-won peace. She took a deep breath and squared her shoulders. "We won, let them take our home." "Not again." Jake nodded, determination flooding his features. "You and we'll rally the community again. We'll show them the heart of Cedar Creek. It's not just land, it's our lives, our memories. They can't just come in and take that away." As they stepped back into the crowd, Emily felt a flicker of hope surge within her. She could feel the energy building in the room, a bond forged by shared history and steadfast loyalty to one another. People were still laughing, celebrating their recent victory, unaware of the new storm approaching. "Hey, everyone!" Emily called, raising her voice above the chatter. The crowd turned toward her, curious. "Can we gather around for a minute? We need to talk about Cedar Creek." Faces shifted from laughter to seriousness. Jake stepped beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist, a quiet show of support. After the crowd settled, Emily began, "Today was a win for us. But we just noticed that our fight isn't over. We're hearing whispers of a potential investor who wants to change everything." Gasps swept through the crowd, faces dropping. "But that's not the end of it," Jake chimed in. "If we stand together, we can preserve not just our land but our community." He raised his voice, his passion igniting a fire in the hearts around them. "They can't break our spirit." As people nodded and murmured their agreement, a sense of urgency filled Emily. They were more than just neighbors, they were family. She could feel their emotions resonating like a rhythm: anger, love, determination. In the days ahead, they would need to drum up support again. But there was something else in Emily's heart, a nagging sense that she needed to uncover more about this mysterious investor. What drove them? Was there a way to appeal to their better nature? Suddenly, a voice cut through her thoughts. "Any ideas on how we fight back, Emily?" She looked around at the familiar faces, the shadows of doubt mingling with a burning resolve. "Let us find out what we're up against first." And just like that, the gears began to turn in her mind. The battle was far from over, a new chapter was about to unfold. As she plotted their next steps, a lingering thought clouded her mind. What did this investor want, really? And were they willing to fight as hard as Emily and the ranch community would? A flicker of fear whispered through her, but as she glanced at Jake, his unwavering conviction reinvigorated her. They would face whatever came next together. But deep down, she couldn't shake the unease. Was this only the beginning of a spiral that could lead to even greater sacrifices? As the evening grew darker, a sense of foreboding settled in the corners of her mind. What lay ahead might not just endanger Cedar Creek Ranch, it could change everything they held dear. Emily barely slept that night. The weight of the news pressed down on her like a heavy blanket, stifling any hope of rest. Beside her, Jake seemed unfazed, his breathing deep and steady, but it only reminded her of the battle they faced ahead. Morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating the clutter of their shared life, photos of laughter, the ranch's vibrant fields, and the dreams they had worked so hard to build. She swung her legs over the side of the bed and sat there, staring at the wooden floor, feeling lost in her thoughts. They had to act fast. Emily grabbed her phone and started scrolling for local news outlets and social media posts related to Cedar Creek. It was time to dig deeper. She needed to find out who this investor was and what they were really after. She quickly found a few articles mentioning the investor's interest in the area, but nothing concrete. "Jake, wake up." She nudged him gently, her voice wavering. He stirred, blinking as reality washed over him. "What's going on?" "I've been looking into this investor." Emily's words spilled out, fueled by adrenaline. "I found some mentions online. They've been buying land in nearby towns. There's no confirmed name yet, but I'm thinking we should reach out to the local papers. Maybe they know something." Jake sat up, rubbing his eyes. "That's a good idea. The more eyes we can get on this, the better." His focus shifted, his determination apparent as he swung his legs to the floor. "We can organize a town meeting too. Gather everyone's energy and strength. We need them to know we can't back down." They spent the next hour drafting a message to the community, sharing their findings and urging everyone to rally together once more. The feeling of unity slowly began to ignite again as responses flooded in. People were willing to fight. Some offered to help reach out to local officials, while others shared ideas on how to put pressure on the investor. The sun climbed higher in the sky, and Emily felt a sense of clarity settling in. She picked up her phone again, and her fingers hovered over a list of contacts. "I think I need to talk to Grandma Rose. She knows everyone in town and might know something about this investor. Plus, everyone respects her opinion." Jake grinned. "That's a perfect call. Let us pull in all the resources we have." 10 minutes later, Jake and Emily sat in Grandma Rose's cozy living room, surrounded by the familiar scent of fresh-baked cookies. Rose was a pillar of the community, her laughter and wisdom a soothing balm to the anxieties that swirled around them. "What can I do for you two, dear hearts?" She beamed, looking between them with her knowing smile. Emily wasted no time, sharing everything. As she spoke, she saw Rose's expression shift to one of concern. "We can't let them take this land from us," Rose said, her voice firm yet warm. "This ranch is a part of who we are. But you're right to gather intel. I've heard whispers too. Do you know anything about the investor?" Jake asked, leaning forward. Rose sighed, thinking. "There's been chatter about a group from the city, looking to create something grand, maybe a resort. But they have their eyes on more than just Cedar Creek." Emily felt her heart race. "What do you mean?" "Rumor has it they want to buy up all the surrounding land. It's not just our ranch, they want to change the landscape, the very essence of our community." The words hung thick in the air. "We're going to need a bigger plan," Emily said, her mind racing with possibilities. Everything she thought she knew was multiplying rapidly like a wildfire. As they brainstormed options, Rose pulled out an old, faded map of Cedar Creek, circling various properties with a bright red pen. "We need to protect each piece, not just your ranch. This is a fight for all of Cedar Creek." They spent hours discussing, mapping out connections, potential allies, and strategies. Each moment made Emily feel more grounded, knowing they weren't in this alone, but as they packed up to leave, a nagging doubt settled in Emily's chest. What if the investor had more power than they thought? Were they prepared to face that? Could they withstand the pressure? As they headed out, new determination ignited in her. They had to stand united, come what may. But just as they climbed into the truck, her phone buzzed with a new message. Emily glanced down, her heart skipping a beat. The text was from an unknown number, simply stating, "I know what you're up against. Meet me at the old barn by sunset if you want answers." The looming question jolted her heart. Who could it be, and what answers did they bring? The late afternoon sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink as Emily and Jake drove toward the old barn. The truck rattled over the dirt road, each bump sending a jolt through her nerves. She glanced over at Jake, his face set with determination, but she could see the flicker of concern in his eyes. "What do you think this is about?" he asked, breaking the silence. "I don't know," Emily replied, her voice small. "But I have a feeling we're about to find out something important." Arriving at the barn, they stepped out onto the sweltering ground, the air thick with anticipation. Emily could hear her heart thumping in her chest, a wild beat echoing in the stillness. The barn stood weathered and proud, its wooden beams creaking faintly, as if holding stories of its own. A figure emerged from the shadows, and Emily squinted to make out the details. It was a man in his 50s, with a rugged appearance and a soft smile that felt both familiar and strange. "Hi there, Emily, Jake," he greeted them, extending a hand. "Name is Hank." "I know it's a little odd for a stranger to reach out like this." Jake shook his hand firmly. "What do you know about the investor?" Hank took a deep breath, his friendly demeanor shifting to something more serious. "I've had my ear to the ground for years now. This investor you're worried about, he is not just looking to make a profit. He is planning to hollow out the heart of Cedar Creek." Emily's stomach churned. "What do you mean?" "He wants to create a massive development. Think big hotels, luxury shops, everything that'll drive the locals out and cater to tourists. He'll buy up everything, and once he has done, it'll no longer be your home." Jake clenched his fists. "We can't let that happen." Hank nodded, the seriousness of the situation palpable. "Exactly. But I wanted to meet you because I believe we can fight back. There's a coalition forming, people from other towns as well, who have also been threatened. They need leadership, someone who knows the land and the community." Emily felt a spark of hope flicker inside her but quickly tempered it with reality. "But we'll need more than just talk. We need a plan, resources, a way to organize." "No need to worry, I've been in touch with some influential folks," Hank replied, his tone assuring. "We can secure funding and manpower. But it will take all of us working together." As they spoke, Emily felt a fire building within her. This was why they had gathered everyone last night, why they felt so passionately about holding on to their roots. "We can do this," she said, emboldened. "We need to spread the word, secure our community's spirit." Just then, her phone buzzed again, snapping her from her thoughts. Another unknown message appeared. "I'm watching. If you think you can stop this, I'd reconsider. Meet me tomorrow at noon before the council meeting. You may not like what you hear." A chill ran down Emily's spine. "Someone is threatening us," she whispered, looking at Hank and Jake. "Maybe that's a warning we can't ignore," Jake said, urgency in his voice. "Whatever it is, we stick together," Hank added firmly. Emily felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. They were on the cusp of something monumental. She looked at both men, determination flaring in their eyes. As they headed back to the truck, a sense of urgency buzzed in the air. They needed to act fast. But who was watching? And what secrets did they hold? Suddenly, the fight was not just for their ranch, but for their very way of life. And as they prepared to face their greatest challenge yet, the stakes grew higher. Would they be ready for what was to come? The drive back into town felt heavier than before. The truck's engine hummed, but Emily couldn't focus on anything except the weight of the threat. Her mind raced, contemplating the unknown meeting looming ahead of them. She could feel the heat of the setting sun on her back, but inside, a chill clung to her bones.
"Do you think we should even go?"
Jake asked, glancing at her with a mix of concern and determination.
"We have to. If someone is threatening us, we can't just ignore it."
"We need to know who is behind this," Emily replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "It could be just another scare tactic, or it could be real." "Yeah, and who knows what they might have up their sleeve," Jake said, gripping the steering wheel tighter. The muscles in his jaw were tense, and Emily knew he was wrestling with the same fears. As they pulled into Cedar Creek, the familiar sights felt different. The bakery, the local diner, and even the small community library were intertwined with memories of laughter and friendship. But now, those memories felt threatened, tainted by the dark clouds of what was to come. When they reached Jake's house, he parked, and before they could exit, an old friend from the town, Sarah, rushed towards them. Her blonde hair whipped in the wind, and her face was alive with a mix of excitement and concern.
"Emily."
"Jake.
"Did you hear about the council meeting tomorrow? It's getting intense." "We've got a lead," Emily said, scanning Sarah's face for any signs of the chaos they felt brewing. "I got a message that someone wants to meet before the meeting." Sarah's eyes widened. "A warning?"
she whispered, the urgency wrapping around the words like a dark cloud.
"Seems like it." Emily took a deep breath, pulling Sarah into a hug. "We have to rally everyone. We need to show up strong."
Jake nodded, a fire igniting in his chest.
"We can't let fear keep us quiet. This is our town."
"Let us meet at the diner tonight," Sarah proposed, her voice steadying. "We can get everyone together, share what we know. If we're going to stand a chance, we need numbers." As they made their way into the house, the walls closed in momentarily, surrounded by memories of late-night talks and camping trips under the stars. But even those happy moments felt like they were resting on shaky ground. "I can't believe we might lose this place," Emily said, her voice cracking slightly.
Memories of summers spent playing with friends bubbled up in her mind. "I won't let that happen."
"Ain't no way," Jake replied, his eyes fierce. That evening, as they gathered around the diner table, the light flickered softly, casting shadows that danced across worried faces. The room buzzed with whispered conversations about what they could do. Everyone shared ideas, hope intertwining with fear as they plotted their next moves.
When the clock struck 8, Hank arrived, a presence that commanded attention. "I've spoken to a few people who are willing to back us. But we need a strong show of solidarity tomorrow. We need your voices."
Midway through the meeting, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. It gnawed at her, and her heart raced when she thought of the message that had been sent to her. Just as they planned their speeches for the council meeting, her phone buzzed again.
Another message.
She opened it, her breath hitching as she read, "Tomorrow isn't what you think. You'll have to decide what you're willing to lose." Cold dread seeped into her bones. The room was full of chatter, but it felt so distant now. Would they be ready for the storm ahead, or would this be the end of everything they had fought for? Emily glanced at Jake, their previous determination mirrored in his eyes, but doubt began to creep in. What would the morning bring? And could they truly face the shadows edging closer? The morning sun broke through the horizon, casting a warm light on the Cedar Creek community, yet it felt as if a storm brewed just beneath the surface. Emily awoke to the smell of coffee, the familiar scent bringing a moment of comfort until the weight of yesterday returned like an unwelcome guest. Today was pivotal. Today would determine the future of everything she loved. Jake was already up, his expression resolute as he gripped both cups of coffee. "You ready for this?" he asked, his voice low but firm. Emily took a deep breath, a mix of excitement and anxiety swirling in her. "Let us do this," she replied, her determination lighting a fire within her. As they drove toward the community center, the streets seemed filled with a renewed energy. People gathered on corners, exchanging nervous smiles and words of encouragement. The sense of unity swelled in Emily's heart. They were no longer just fighting for the ranch, they were fighting for each other. Upon arriving, memories flooded her, laughter resonating off these walls, happy tears and hopeful dreams shared in moments that seemed so simple but were now on the verge of being lost forever. The atmosphere buzzed with tension as townsfolk filed in, the gravity of the impending vote palpable. Hank greeted them at the door, his presence a grounding force amidst the nervous chatter. "It's now or never, folks," he said, determination behind his eyes.
"We're not just leaving this to fate. We're going to change it."
With each passing moment, more familiar faces filled the room. Sarah, Emily's childhood friend, the baker, the young couple who had just bought a small farm nearby. Each one held a piece of Cedar Creek in their hearts. As the crowd settled, Emily shared her resolve, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart.
"Good morning, everyone.
We stand here not just to talk about a piece of land, but to protect our hearts, our homes, and our history.
We cannot let anyone tear down everything we've built together."
Jake stood beside her, his hand resting on her back, lending her strength.
"If we stand together, we're impossible to take down. This isn't just about us. This is for every single person in this room." The cheers erupted like a thunderclap, hope igniting the air.
Emily felt it deep in her bones, the spirit of Cedar Creek was alive. They had worried about uncertainty, but in that moment, it transformed into unyielding faith in each other, in their shared past, and in their collective future. "Now, we'll hear from the council," the mayor called, drawing the room as focus. As he spoke, Emily's heart tightened. She glanced at Jake, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. What if this was their last chance to influence the direction of their beloved town? Members of the council began to voice their thoughts, the developers' representatives swiftly rebutting their concerns with confident statistics and promises of prosperity. It felt like a well-rehearsed performance, designed to pit progress against tradition.
But Emily would not stand for it.
Rising from her seat, she walked forward, heart pounding with each step. Respectfully, she interjected, her voice cutting through the noise. Eyes turned to her, wide and anticipating. "What you're proposing isn't progress, it's destruction. You're pushing aside generations of memories for shiny buildings. But this land? It's alive with stories of our ancestors, and we have to fight for them, fight for all of us here."
Moments of silence settled in the room, breaths held as disbelief mingled with admiration.
Suddenly, the room exploded with emotion. Supporters began to rise, echoing her sentiments, sharing their own stories connected to Cedar Creek. They stood resolute as one, the hearts of Cedar Creek woven together tighter than anyone could sever. The mayor nodded, a flicker of recognition coursing through his expression. "Let us take a vote," he finally said, the atmosphere thick with anticipation.
Emily's hands trembled as they moved to cast their ballots.
Each whispered prayer and silent wish fluttered around her, tangling with the vibrations of hope. When the results were announced, a deafening silence blanketed the crowd. The vote to preserve Cedar Creek Ranch and reject the development proposal is passed, the mayor declared. A roar of triumph erupted, shaking the very foundations of the community center.
Emily's heart swelled as she embraced Jake, tears cascading down her face. "We did it!" she exclaimed, the words barely escaping her lips before he captivated her with a kiss, their victory sealing a promise stronger than uncertainty. But just as the celebration unfolded, Emily's phone buzzed in her pocket, a stark reminder that the fight wasn't truly over. The urgent message startled her. "You thought this was just a vote? You have no idea what's coming next. I'll be watching."
A chill swept through her. Turning toward Jake, she could see worry fleeting across his features. Together, they would face whatever new storm lay ahead, fortified by their love, their community, and the indomitable spirit of Cedar Creek. This was only the beginning. Now, because your journey has just started, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately. Don't miss out on what's next. Leave a like now to help us spread the word. I want to hear how you felt about this transformation. Drop a comment below. And this is the moment to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey. We're in this together.
Don't wait not even one more second.